Dear listener, welcome to this edition of the Politocrat Dispatch. Yours truly, Omar Moore here. And the press is a hot mess. The corporate news media in the United States is a one-trick pony when it comes to covering the Biden-Harris campaign. It has done an abysmal job in doing so, creating all of these false equivalencies between a decent man and an orange felon who is also a rapist, an insurrectionist, a twice impeached traitor to this country, and so much more. He also has three other pending criminal trials. He is also a 34 count convicted felon and a pathological liar and a narcissistic sociopath. The false equivalencies of this press that tries to make you think that a Joe Biden flub at a debate is equal to all of the horrors of the orange felon. This is what the corporate news media does. It writes attack pieces on Vice President Harris. The New York Times has done this. The Washington Post has done this. The Atlantic has done this. The New Yorker magazine has done this. And so many other publications have demonized Vice President Harris. All she does is crisscross the world and do some really important things, negotiate some important deals, and conduct herself as a vice president, one of the busiest vice presidents in history. She really, really has been. And also, look, President Biden's achievements. This Biden Harris administration has been absolutely brilliant with all the things it's done. Here's just a partial list of their accomplishments: $16.5 billion to HBCUs and almost $170 billion of student loan debt forgiven for almost 5 million Americans, and the lowest rate of unemployment in the United States since the 1960s, including almost record low unemployment for Black people and Latinos. And the cost of insulin for seniors, $35. That is a low, the lowest ever. And almost 16 million jobs created in the first 3.5 years of this administration. That's more than any president combined when it comes to jobs. And the best economy in the world. And 800,000 manufacturing jobs created in the United States under President Biden. And before we even got to the 100-day mark, hundreds of millions, almost 100 million people had shots in their arms in the COVID days. Do you remember that? The vaccine? President Biden got to that 100 million mark in about 58, 59 days, the first 59 days of his administration. Don't forget also the CHIPS Act, the Infrastructure Bill passed, the Recovery Act passed, so many other things. The cost of gas has come down under this president. Inflation has come down under this president from 9% to around 3% right now. So much more in this administration that I could rattle off and their accomplishments. Now, the campaign needs to talk about these accomplishments and put them out front and also offer a vision for the next 4 years. But there's no doubt that this administration has been one of the most successful administrations in the history of the United States. As a matter of fact, not since Lyndon Baines Johnson has an administration been this successful. It's remarkable what Biden and Harris have done in this administration. And yet, many people don't even realize how much they've done because the corporate news media has been spending its time talking about an orange dictator and not talking about the accomplishments of this president. All the talk about him being too old, and they ignore all of the bizarre things that the orange felon has said. And this guy is also someone who's been impeached twice. He's also someone who's a rapist. He's also someone who has 34 felonies as a convicted felon, 34 of them. And he already has three additional criminal trials that are pending. I mean, there's so many things about this evil human being. And yet, virtually none of the editorial boards are calling for him to step down as a candidate in this presidential race. Only the Philadelphia Inquirer has done so. So the corporate news media that's telling you that Biden should step out, I think they better look at the other guy because that's the only person in this race who needs to drop out. And also those third party candidates as well. If you don't like what you're seeing in the corporate news media and how it conveniently ignores all the accomplishments of this Biden Harris administration, you need to actually make sure that you unsubscribe from them. You end your subscription, as I have done with the Washington Post and the New York Times, both of whom are trash newspapers. The attacks on this administration, the attacks on President Biden, the attacks and the hit pieces on Vice President Harris are absolutely insane and unwarranted. And it's all because corporate news media do not want to have someone in office who hikes their taxes, someone in office who is going to carry out the agenda that's going to favor the people, as this president clearly has done in the first 3.5 years of his administration. And they also want someone in the White House who they think is going to boost their ratings and make them some money. And that certainly would be the orange felon. That's why they talk about him all the time, to get the advertisers, because advertisers know that more people will be glued to their channels, knowing that all the talk is about an orange felon who will destroy this country. We cannot afford to let that happen. And we must vote. Register to vote right now at vote.org. That's vote.org. And follow yours truly on social media, on X at the popcorn REEL, on Spoutable at spoutable.com/popcorn REEL. And of course, on Fanbase, fanbase.app/popcorn REEL, Blue Sky, popcorn REEL.bsky.social, and Threads, threads.net/popcorn REEL. Subscribe, won't you please, on Substack, politicrat.substack.com. And of course, the podcast for this particular, right up here, the podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, Odyssey, Audible, and many others. That is it for this edition of the Politicrat Dispatch. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Omar Moore.